Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's incredible episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends. I'm your host, of course, Mr. Boomstick XL. And as you can see, we are a little light on panel members simply because Clowns is running late due to family, and Tempest Son also has family over, and he will be missing tonight's show. We'll get him back in his seat next week. Obviously, but we do have someone that I would like this community to give a big rousing welcome to. He's making his first video game podcast ever, but more so, he is relatively new to the community. I think he has only 12 followers. We're going to change that today on Twitter. First of all, you're going to notice he's going to have a very sexy accent. He's all the way from London, but now he's living here in the States. He's from England, and he spent some time in Japan as well. He has 25 years worth of experience in both retail and in development and gaming. And to make matters even better, he enjoys a spot of tea. Please welcome VJ.
Thanks very much, Boom. I really appreciate the kind intro. Hello, everybody in the panel. I've only just met you guys, so I really appreciate that. And just a big hello to all the brothers and sisters listening in onto Boom's podcast.
Well, listen, VJ, first of all, it's great to have you. Let me give you a little backstory. VJ reached out to me and did something that I did many years ago when I reached out to Mooch. That's right, Mooch from obviously you know him from Crossfire on Friday evenings. And, you know, we got a chance to talk a little bit. He wanted to get onto the podcast, and here he is. And he will, of course, will be, you know, obviously chiming in to give us his expertise, opinions on gaming. But we do have someone that literally saved our rears. You know him as not only the raunchiest gamer, but he's also one of the friendliest and best community members I know, simply because he always thinks about community with his community gaming nights. Please welcome Noof Nukem.
Boom, boom, boom. Hey, you know, whenever there's a rear, have no fear. Noof Nukem will show
there
up.
You go.
Great to have VJ, newcomer, on the podcast. And yeah, Mike, I knew you was coming from England, the UK, because, you know, you're here. And first off, I noticed that you've got that fantastic teacup, which is PG Tips.
Well, Noof, it's great to have you on, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time. Obviously, folks, this was last minute, like literally minutes before the show went live. He jumped into the chat and I said, Noof, can you be on? And he bailed us out. So, Noof, once again, dude, thank you for the bailout. I super appreciate it. Next up, our resident Batman fan. You know, I mean, obviously there's a lot of DC news coming out, so I know that he's got to be happier that it's taken. You know what? Obviously we have DC Fandom coming August 22nd, and we're going to be getting some Batman news, lots of Batman news. Cybernox, welcome to the show, dude.
Thank you so much, Boom. I thought we were on a different podcast because it said Noof in the rear. And I was like, what's going on? We in Gaming After Dark? What happened now? But yeah, glad to be here, guys. VJ, welcome, bud. You're going to do awesome. Chat, let's get ready to talk about some games and, you know, start the week off right.
Well, yes. And you know what? I'm glad you said that, because obviously this week has already started off with a bang. But we have to introduce our next podcast brethren. He is known as someone who keeps his ear to the floor with everything that has to do with GameStop, simply because he works there. He's also one of the community's absolutely finest members, and he also one of the busiest because he's on 19 1/3 podcast. Please welcome Gaming Forte.
What's up, guys, man? It's Monday, so that means another episode of Primetime Gaming with the fine fellas. Let's put those iced coffees up so we can get this energy, and let's get into the show.
Well, yes, it's great. It's great that you're here because obviously, and we'll start off with something a little bit small. We're going to go into it a little bit more into detail on tomorrow's Double Barrel Gaming Presents. It's a special bonus episode of live content for Double Barrel Gaming. Zemi and I are going to be hooking up around 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a bunch of topics that we're going to be talking about, and I hope that we can get people to tune into that. Again, it's just bonus coverage because, quite frankly, there's just way too much news to talk about, and you can only cover so much on a 2-hour podcast. But today, this afternoon, people were basically setting the interwebs on fire because the PlayStation 5 was supposed to be reservable at 3:30 p.m., 12:30 California time, and unfortunately, that never came to pass. And this comes to us. This information was on Reddit. This information was on the 4chan forums, which, of course, we have to take these things with a grain of salt, so to speak. But also a Twitter account that has, posted good information in the past. Obviously, didn't get it all wrong, as a matter of fact, because in Australia, Amazon Australia, the page for the PlayStation 5, both physical and digital editions, is live. It just says currently unavailable, which means that it could go live momentarily and have a price there. And I'm assuming because the PlayStation or Australia is probably already in their next day based on the time schedules that there could be happening here in the States, because I checked both the UK and, of course, the US Amazon sites, and it just brings you to the advert of the PlayStation 5. It does not give you the ability to pre-order it, or does it even have a pre-order page. So obviously something is about to happen. The question is, what? But you know what? Again, this was a little bit of a small nugget, not really intended to be a topic, but I do want to start breaking down the topics because we do have a lot to get to. So let's start with this. Now, as the new Xbox news keeps rolling in, for tonight's opening topic, I have some big statements from head of Xbox Phil Spencer regarding Microsoft's position on acquiring new first-party studios. And in an article published by GameIndustry.biz, they quote Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, and many of the heads of their first-party studios that were interviewed, and they had a lot to say on working with Microsoft has been not only the best thing to happen to their company, but their teams as well. Now, why this is an important opening discussion. Obviously, look, the WB thing has quieted down. We don't really know what's going to happen. We don't know if Microsoft is going to save that for July 23rd, which of course is next week. And it would be a high-profile announcement should it happen. But when discussing the potential of adding even more first-party muscle to the already outrageous roster, it's what Phil Spencer said that raised some eyebrows within the gaming press and, of course, the gaming community. And here's what he had to say on the matter. He says this: we acquired quite a few new studios in a short amount of time, and we want to make sure that those studios are on board in the right way. As Matt and I were talking about it, we just wanted to make sure that they were treated. They wanted to make sure that we treated the incoming studios as full parts of the organization, that they felt supported. The Game Pass portfolio and subscriber base continues to grow. We are launching a new console. Last year was our biggest year ever on PC in terms of revenue for Xbox Game Studios. And a lot of business is doing really well. So we're always in the market for new opportunities, which also includes new studio acquisitions. The first priority was making sure that the studios had the things that they needed to build the best versions of their games. Now, obviously, it's what he says next that it's important, and I want people, and I'm going to get the panel's opinion, but I want to hear what the chat has to say about this. He says this: that means extending some of our timelines and giving them more budgets. we have really strong support from Satya Nadella and the CEO of Microsoft, who is the CEO of Microsoft, and Amy Hood, who is the CFO. And there has been no signal at all that we should be slowing down, but just go at a pace that is maintainable for us as a leadership team. We are always out there talking to people, but it has to be the right opportunity. Now, I want to go to VJ first on this.
Yeah.
Now, VJ, the WB thing obviously turned a lot of heads. And it first started out as a bit of a mutter and a rumor from some smaller trades. And then when the bigger trades like GameIndustry.biz and Windows Central and the New York Times started posting stories about this, I'm going to be honest with you. There was some momentum to this story. Now, true, it has slowed down, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Microsoft is not in the market to purchase both WB and potentially other studios. When you hear Phil Spencer say that they were told, they were not told to slow down, just keep it maintainable. What does that mean to you?
I think Microsoft sat down like a long time ago and sat down and said Game Pass is the way forward for them. And I think if you look at Microsoft, their sort of overarching corporate strategy is what? It's basically providing essential software and solutions via subscription. So I was just having a look at Microsoft's business, and their biggest business is Microsoft Office, right? It's got 215 million subscribers, 40 million of which are consumers, and they charge each and every one of them $99 per annum. But the problem of that division is that those numbers are slowing down. So I think looking at Xbox, it's about less than 10% of Microsoft, the whole organization, in terms of its revenue contribution. And I think they're looking at that, and it's specifically Game Pass, is to that being something that can contribute maybe 4 or 5 times more than what it is doing right now. So that's why I think that Xbox fans, Microsoft fans, they should be really excited about the fact that how Microsoft is going to go forward. Because for me, Phil said it quite clearly. You know, he has the support of Satya, he has the support of the CFO Amy Hood, and they're not slowing down. But just to wrap up the point on Game Pass and why it's so critical, if you look at Game Pass and you look at Microsoft 365, for me, Game Pass is missing, say, something like Outlook or Word or even possibly PowerPoint, right, so to speak. So, and then I don't want to move too much into sort of like the rest of the topics, but Halo and Fable, yeah, for me, those two are critical, essential to make Game Pass essential, right? And at the same time, when I look at it, is it enough? And I think Phil, the way he's kind of coming out and speaking and so on and so forth, I think there's a hunger there. And would WB help? Absolutely. But their ambition is not to get, 10 or 15 million subscribers. It's to really ramp it up, right? Through Game Pass, through xCloud and so forth, and build that as high and mighty as they possibly can. So that's what I think they're going to be doing, right, going forward. So it's a strategic move as a corporation, but also as gamers, we should be excited because it's clear and present, right, that they want to grow that division.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Really, I'm going to say this, VJ, completely knocked it out of the park on your first go around. So congratulations.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You did absolutely fantastic. Noof, I want to go to you next on this because you, my friend, have been someone that has been opposed to Game Pass. You are part of the old guard. I was there for many, many years, just like you. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still buy my Nintendo Switch games and all of my PlayStation 4 games, as well as my PlayStation VR games, physically. I don't know why I enjoy the physical collection for those as opposed to Xbox. I buy everything digital. Now, the only digital, actual discs that I wound up getting are with collector's editions because they don't offer it. But my question to you is, we were talking pregame about how expensive the fall is going to be. And, we don't want to turn this into a Game Pass topic. But when you hear that Phil Spencer has not been told to slow down, and he obviously has not only the ear of Satya Nadella, who runs Microsoft, he has the CFO, and the CFO obviously is responsible for the money factor of where money is going to come from. When you hear this now, if you remember, and I believe you were on a couple of the Xbox Factor podcasts earlier this year and potentially late last year, when we heard Clobriel say 20 in 2020. And, obviously, people went crazy with that because they were basically assuming that what he was talking about is 20 first-party studios in 2020. Mm-hmm. And it sure looks like that might actually happen. Do you think, even though you don't necessarily now currently support Game Pass because you have your own way of gaming, do you think it's a necessary evil, so to speak, to add these big studios to Game Pass to get people to subscribe?
Sure, but before I answer that, I thought I'd give you a moment to catch up with your super chats before they sort of double down and you kind of lose track.
You know what? Thank you so much for that. First of all, Sir X-Man is here, and I want to thank him for always being here and always being a generous donor. He drops an outstanding $2 super chat, says Noof in the house. Indeed, he is. And King Rose, first of all, thank you so much for your generosity of a $5 super chat, but more importantly, thank you for being here. He's been waiting all day for this and excited for all the interesting topics for today. Can we talk about the crazy MS Flight Sim? Yes, but you know what? That's going to be a big topic for tomorrow's bonus episode. So if you tune in tomorrow at noon, we're going to be going in deep into that. So thank you for, of course, a super chat. But take it away, Nuv. What do you think about this?
Sure.
Do you expect Microsoft to add additional studios?
Brother, they're going to double down. They're going to triple down. This is going to be an ongoing trend. If they want Game Pass to succeed, if they want the trend to climb upwards as opposed to downwards, this is something they have to commit to. Like I've said many a times, look, the way that game development is these days, there's no magic wand to speed up the process, unfortunately. So you're going to have your big AAA stuff. And, for the most part, most of that stuff is going to take you on average 3 to 5 years to build a phenomenal game, especially if it's a new IP building from the ground up. So you take away, that 5 or 6 studios that Microsoft has that are bona fide, AAA studios that are building and bringing the big games like 343, the Coalition, Turn 10, Playground Games. So that's their nucleus ones, but they also have to have plenty of development as well that can pump out games at a more rapid pace that aren't say, well, you guys have to build this $100 million game that has to blow people's minds. You guys just need to build good, competent games, for the lack of a better word, as people like to call them, the Game Pass filler. But you know what? You have to have those games too. And just because they don't get rated 9s or 10s by a Metacritic score does not mean they're not phenomenal games. I'm hearing amazing things about that game, Grounded. While some people poke fun of it, I'm hearing great things about it. There is room in Game Pass for every type of game, for every type of gamer.
Yes,
that is the thing. You have to have the content. Netflix knows it, and gaming knows it too. Because why? EA has their own subscription service. Ubisoft is looking at building their own. So we start taking all these companies and they want to start doing their own thing. Well, what's going to happen? Those games that eventually are going to be pulled away from Game Pass, that means Microsoft has to have more content from their own studios, right? So that is the bottom line. They're only going to double down. This is the route that they've taken. Satya has given the green light to Phil to go and do it. And now is not the time you look at them and say, well, they're costing a lot of money. It takes money to make money, and they have to invest in their studios, and their studios have to invest back into the gameplay. So again, there's going to be your big games. There's going to be some studios that maybe never build a big game. They're just going to build, average, medium kind of games, that maybe aren't so graphically impressive, but they're competent games. They're fun games that probably are built around a multiplayer ecosystem. That's another reason when Microsoft doubles down more on multiplayer, because multiplayer keeps people invested in the ecosystem. Let's take Fortnite, for example. Well, Fortnite was a single-player only game. Would Fortnite be $1 billion franchise right now?
Absolutely not.
Right? So there you have it. You can't have one without the other. Sony eventually has to wake up too and figure out that, yeah, their single-player stuff is phenomenal. It's great. But you know what? Their single-player stuff is not going to keep people invested in PlayStation now in the same way that Gears or Halo keep people invested in having the Game Pass. Simple as that. As for my reasons with Game Pass, I love Game Pass. I think it's phenomenal value. I encourage anyone and everyone, if you have an Xbox, to get it. I don't get it for different reasons, and I told people this before. I don't buy it because, one, I support physical. I like to have tangible copies, even though I get it. Discs are just DRM licenses, no more, no less. I'm a collector. I also can only play 2 or 3 games at a time. I don't have enough time to play all of these games in Game Pass. I don't have enough storage space to download all the games I would like to play in Game Pass. So what is the point for me? It's different strokes for different folks, and I'm not having a stroke over this stuff right now. I like my games the way I'm going to, and I support my method, because the longer I support it and more gamers like me support my method, the slower it gets phased out. Don't people see that? If everybody just jumps on the bandwagon and we get down to a point where physical discs are about 10% of the saturation in the market, well, guess what happens to us old dinosaurs? You guys take us out to pasture and you put a bullet in our head and you say, you're going to play games the way we want you to play games. You're going to collect your games the way we play, because I miss my Blockbuster stores. I miss the old days. I know the times have changed and gamers are supposed to change with it. But hey, I hear Xbox players say all the time, options are great. But then you take away my option and you're saying, Noob, you old freaking fossil, get with the times. Well, no, that's my option. That's my choice. Stop taking away my choices as a gamer. It's my freaking money. And if you don't give me my choices, well, you know where I can take my money? To the competitor that chooses not to slap me upside the freaking face. I'll leave it at that. But that's why Xbox has to keep investing in Game Pass and keep investing in studios. The Warner Brothers thing, if that is true, that would be huge, because that would give them instant AAA studios bang, with or without the IPs. Warner Brother Games is huge. That you can't say, oh, if they don't have the Batman IP, that makes them crap. No, well, that'd be like telling Naughty Dog, saying, well, if Naughty Dog lost the right, okay, just figuratively speaking, right? If Naughty Dog was to lose Uncharted or lost The Last of Us, that doesn't make Naughty Dog a crappy developer. It means they lost the license. You get it?
Yeah.
So what Batman would just make it double big. But that doesn't mean all of a sudden Rocksteady don't know how to make a game from a hole in the ground. They're still freaking amazing studios, and those studios would be able to make amazing games for Xbox. And then if they did get those licenses, well, holy, set the nukes afire.
Yeah, no, it would be. I said this publicly. I've talked about it privately. It would be, the industry would be brought to a complete screeching halt if this deal was announced. Not for a bad reason, simply because everyone would stop to say, "Holy shit, what now?" Because obviously the one thing that continues to, I suppose, haunt Microsoft is the old mantra of Xbox has no games. And they keep banging that particular drum, and obviously that's all going to be put to bed. That's going to be the last nail in the coffin, so to speak, of this generation for Microsoft come the 23rd, which is next week. And we're all going to be delighted. We're all going to be surprised. I'm hearing some things from different people. I mean, if you listen to Jez Corden, and who was on the Xbox too, with, of course, Randall Thor last week. He said he's heard about 10% of the show, and he is psyched out of his mind with only 10%. Could you imagine what is awesome coming on the back end of that? Wow. So what I'd like to do, first of all, I want to welcome Clowns here. Clowns is finally here. Clowns, thanks for taking the time to hang out, brother. We super appreciate you being here, and we're going to get your opinion in a hot minute. But first, I want to go to Cybernox. Now, Cybernox, obviously, this was, again, maybe not one of the bigger topics. Maybe we have covered it once before, but I think that it's really relevant because this interview with Phil Spencer is new. And hearing confirmation from the man, from the actual guy that runs Xbox, that they have not been told to slow down, leads me to believe that kind of statement is maybe he's not letting us peek behind the curtain, but it's certainly not saying that they don't anticipate buying another studio or 3. When you hear that, when you hear that he has support all the way from the top, and you know that they already have 15 studios, and every one of those teams is working on a game potentially, and we've heard multiple games. What does this do for you as someone who's going to invest in the console and the platform for next generation?
Well, it makes me extremely happy for what Xbox has in the upcoming future. It shows also that the top dogs of of Microsoft, Satya and the CFO, also they've been seeing the return of their investment in Xbox. Xbox has been paying off, especially probably Xbox Game Pass, and to make Xbox more appealing to Xbox Game Pass more appealing to customers. What would do? You had to invest in more studios. I can definitely see them purchasing maybe one, two, maybe like you say, even three more studios, because like, kind of what Newt said, everybody now is trying to do the subscription service. Why? Because it pays off. You know what I mean? Everybody that does these subscription services sees that their return on their investment ultimately comes back to them.
Yes.
Even, we don't even know how many times fold, but you do the math. Last time we heard there were 10 million subscribers to Game Pass.
The last we heard, and we heard this from Tim Dog on the last RDX, it was 15.
So 15, you know what I mean? That's a monthly revenue right there that they're getting. So it's amazing. And when you see that kind of success on a service that you provide, which Microsoft is known for their software, it just gives them the confidence to keep investing, keep buying new studios. And can you imagine WB coming into the Microsoft umbrella? Those studios, Rocksteady, Monolith, Avalanche, it'll be insane. NetherRealm, it'll be insane. And then when you look at Xbox Game Pass, it's almost like there's no way for you to have Xbox without not having Xbox Game Pass. It'll be that appealing to the customers. And once you get into that system, most times you will stay in that on that subscription service over time. You don't even in the one time when you do cancel and then you look at it again, it's like, why did I cancel the service? Like, I want to play some of these games. I understand Noof's side too, though. I do know a couple people that still go and buy physical copies. I sometimes, if I see a good sale, I will buy physical, but more and more I'm just transitioning to all digital. I'm almost there. I'm like 80%, maybe even 90% there. But yeah, man, it just gives me all the confidence in the world that Xbox is going to push ahead, get a few more studios in there. We're going to see a lot more great games coming out of their Xbox Studios umbrella, and the more studios they add, the more appealing it's going to be to everyone else.
No, absolutely. And the numbers are going to keep going up. And obviously, it's I'm going to say this, and Gaming Forte, I want to bring you into the conversation because, we have seen in the past when Microsoft does something first. I'm not saying it happens more often than not. It's the other way around. But a lot of the times they get into something and they don't finish. They don't swing through. Like when you're playing baseball, they basically just whiff it, and we've seen that with several things. We saw it with the music thing that they did. They had Zune that failed. They have quite a few things that failed, but Game Pass, I don't know who was the magician that looked into the future and saw this as the next thing. But when you talk about the Netflix, you think about incredible original content, which they're doing now. And when you think when you hear the words, they want to be the Netflix of gaming. Well, the one thing that Netflix does, and Noof actually mentioned this, not every movie is for every movie goer, but there's options in this. So when you think, okay, now look, I'll say this: even if the WB thing doesn't get done, or we don't hear about it for another year, because a big move like this takes time. We saw this happen when Marvel purchased Fox. It took over 18 months to get the deal done. Sure, there was rumblings of it happening, and halfway through we got confirmation. But there are still a ton of studios out there that would make perfect studios for first party. You have Play Dead Studios, Asobo, Moon Studio, Studio MDHR, People Can Fly, Techland. The list goes on and on. For you personally, as someone that is going to, at first, you weren't going to invest in the Xbox next generation. Something changed your mind. But when you see Microsoft really putting their nose to the grindstone and making Game Pass the best place to not only get your games, but the console is going to be the best place to play those games. What are your thoughts on that, dude?
So with Game Pass, it's always been, well, first of all, to answer your first question about, who thought of this, it's not that they really they kind of had to do this. It was a situation where
the writing was on the wall, you think?
Yeah, their games weren't selling as much as they wanted them to sell. And I think just the fact that they started with the whole Play Anywhere initiative, I think that kind of set the tone for what Game Pass ended up being. That was like the testing ground. Even though Shannon Lawton came out and said that it wasn't a lot of cross-pollination between PC and console at the time, it was still enough that people realized that, oh, there is actually a bunch of people on other platforms that enjoy our games. So how do we monetize that? And you monetize that by making a service. And the biggest thing that the service does, it kind of goes back to what I said a few years ago about Microsoft. Ever since they started taking all of their core business models and turning them into services, it became more of what Microsoft was. When they were selling, you can still go out and buy Office and all this other stuff, but they have a subscription model for you, and it's a lot easier to manage this stuff that way. And the world turns on people just kind of just forgetting that they have certain models, and they just let the stuff go. But for the most part, it was just the writing was on the wall. Sony doesn't have to do anything like that, right? Because their games just kind of just sell, and Microsoft's games weren't doing that, so they had to kind of find a way to light a match, and that's what they did. So, but the biggest thing is, even if the WB thing isn't real, I think a lot of these, like Cobra said, the 20 for 20. I think a lot of that was already in the works. So I think you're still going to, even if it's not the WB stuff, you're going to hear about new studios anyways. Yeah. And the main reason is they have 15 right now. They talked a long time ago about how we want to have a AAA type level game every quarter. Well, there's four quarters in it. There's 4 quarters in a year. You got 15 studios. So that means you can technically have 4 years worth of AAA games over the course of 4 years in one every quarter for the next 4 years. But the thing is, what happens in those months in between?
Yeah,
that's the thing. And we all know all these studios that they have, they're not all they're good, but they're not. When you think AAA, you're thinking Halo, Gears. They only got a few of those. I would put Obsidian up there as a AAA developer. We know the initiative that's what they're aiming to be. They're actually aiming to be higher than that. So the biggest thing is what's going to be the in between, and that's the thing that Netflix does very well.
Yes.
They have so much content on there. Even when you're in the lows of waiting for the next Stranger Things, which takes 2 years to make, they have so many other hits and misses that it's like you don't mind just keeping your subscription there just to see what's going to happen next. Not so much when it comes to gaming, because the thing is, Microsoft can't depend on third party to put games in there. They can't depend on that. They have to have their own homebred farm of games that they can say, what are we going to do for month 3 or month 4 and month 5? Well, we know we got this coming out in the 4th month, the 7th month, the 9th month, and the 12th month. We know we got them. What about the ones in the middle? So that's what this move is going to end up being. And if they did make a move like that for Warner Brother, and like you said, I do think it's going to take time, it's just going to turn out to be even more beneficial for them in the end, because they'll have more studios with that AAA pedigree that can help them build games like they need to build. So I think the biggest thing is, like you said, he said, "Don't take your foot off the gas."
Yep.
I think that's what
you can gain a lot of Game Pass fans in a year, but you can lose a lot after that first year is up too. If you don't have if you don't keep that content coming, it's about consistency. So they got to fill those gaps, right? That's the thing. They can't wait for every studio to be on a 5-year cycle, because somewhere along the line, especially with delays, then all of a sudden you could have a really big gap in your thing, and then you got to be looking like, well, when are these subscriptions up? Because these guys are going to be leaving us here.
Well, see, 2016, that's what happened there when Scalebound got canceled, when Fable Legends got shuttered. That was a whole year of games supposed to come out that year, and everybody goes back to that year saying Microsoft didn't give us anything.
Right.
So it's a recurring, like, okay, so others ain't saying it's a recurring revenue that Sony nor Netflix has. It is a recurring, but guess what? They also have Xbox Live too, and that's a recurring revenue, and I think that's going away some point this year.
Yeah,
At a certain point, it's going to hit critical mass to where they have enough studios to cover every month of the year that they need for Game Pass. But they got to have the studios. And I think 25 studios at minimum is what they're going to need, because they're going to have support studios to help them build these bigger experiences that they want, especially if you're talking about supporting not only just consoles, but PC too.
And we didn't even mention xCloud either. As soon as the xCloud comes out, and if they, they actually are going to, put that together with Game Pass, it's just going to be a game changer.
That's been confirmed. That's been confirmed. Yeah. That's going, once that's launched, that's going right into the Xbox Game Pass. Yeah,
it's going to be a game changer. You're going to be able to access all these games, and can you imagine adding more studios and more games that you want to play anywhere, literally anywhere? Your lunch break, you can play. You're visiting, some family member over there, you don't want to take your Xbox, just take your phone. It's going to be insane, man.
Well, you know what, Clowns? Let's bring Clowns into the conversation. But before I get your opinion on this, Clowns, I just got to catch up with some super chats. First of all, Sir X-Man once again shows his generosity with a $2 super chat, and he says, "I want a good Looney Tunes game. I'm not kidding." Hey, you never know. And Black Eye Dog drops an outstanding and extremely generous $10 super sticker. Thank you for that, my friend. I super appreciate the donation to to the show, but also more importantly, I appreciate you here listening to the show live. Sir X-Men, once again, my goodness, dude, he drops another $2 super chat and says, "A better idea, a Looney Tunes fighting game. Holy matrimony, that would be funny." Nightwolf 3186 is here. Thank you for hanging out, dude. He drops a very generous $10 super chat, says, "MS buying studios is good. Rumors of acquisitions are good. Fact is, Xbox is planning and has been for a while and have a slate of titles released in a staggered way throughout the year going forward." And that's a great point. Nightwolf, once again, my goodness, he drops another very generous super chat for $5 and says, "I feel Game Pass next step is third-party blockbusters. Time will tell. It's hard, but you do miss 100% of the shots if you don't take them." And that's a great point. Now, Clowns, you've heard us all talk about the statements from Satya and Nadella. We've heard Amy Hood, talk about the confidence that Microsoft has in the decision-making of Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer knows what they did wrong in this generation. He has come out and said explicitly that he knows the games they were making were not good and that they made mistakes. They took missteps. It seems as like since, of course, post E3 2018, they've been doing the right moves, and obviously it all came forward on December 19th of obviously 2019, December 19th, I think it was December 9th, I'm sorry, of 2019, when they did that big blowout with the Series X and of course Hellblade 2, and it's been really all switches being hit. And when you hear there's a potential to add 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 more studios, is this something you want to see happen for Microsoft? And does this mean Xbox could potentially be the Netflix of gaming?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think, if they add that many more studios, they would definitely be the Netflix of gaming at this point. Maybe even better than that, to be honest, because they would have those studios could develop more than one game at a time, depending on how many teams each studio had. And you can get some that might be, double A, and you get some that will be triple A. You might get some that might be a bigger blockbuster smash than triple A. So it just keeps the content coming. It'll keep people happy. And don't forget, you still got powerhouses like Rare in there as well that's going to keep Sea of Thieves alive. And that game is doing phenomenal now.
It's killing it on Steam. 6 weeks, dude, in the top 5.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people give that game a lot of crap for not having a lot of stuff in it. But let me tell you something. I mean, that game is getting more and more popular every single day since the Steam launch. More and more people playing it. There's more big streamers playing it. I mean, people are just having a ton of fun with that kind of game. And I think that Phil Spencer knows that games as a service like that will succeed. And these 15 studios or alleged 15 studios, imagine how many of their teams could make games as a service like that and keep stuff coming into Game Pass, and it will make you want to keep your subscription going. And I hate to say it, I mean, I think that we're at a point now, and I feel bad for Noof because he likes physical stuff, but I think we're getting to a point where companies are seeing that games as a service and subscription models are extremely profitable because the income is continuously generated month after month after month. Whereas, like, you know, an old school guy like Noof, myself, and you, Boom, we used to buy a $60 title and everything was in that one $60 title. You know, we popped it in the Super Nintendo Entertainment System and we looked up cheat codes maybe or did little things to get a little extra stuff, but there was no microtransactions. There was no online services unless you bought that ridiculous modem that came out that was terrible, the X modem or something. I can't remember the name of it. But I mean, like, we're in a different age now, and this fast internet, this gigabyte services out there, 5G is coming out for the cell phones with xCloud and services like xCloud. I mean, Phil knows what he's doing, man. And I think I said this circa 2015, 2014 on Four Guys with Quarters. I actually predicted a Game Pass model and I predicted an xCloud model. If anyone goes back to our early episodes during our first season, you'll hear that. And I am so glad that Phil saw that type of vision within Xbox because it's going to make Xbox stand out this coming generation. I mean, this Xbox Series X is going to be a powerhouse for gamers. And if you don't even get the system and you want to play on your PC, well, Microsoft's got something for you on the PC too, the PC Game Pass. I mean, it's just brilliant marketing because they know how many subscribers and how many users they have across different devices. And that's what they're looking at. They're looking at that continuous revenue from all the devices out there that Xbox or Microsoft is attached to. That's genius.
Yeah, you know what? Just watching this whole thing transpire in a generation where, I mean, the truth is the truth. I mean, Sony kicked the teeth of Microsoft. This is there's no nicer way to put it. I mean, but as we move forward into the next generation, console sales, of course, they're going to be important. They're always going to be important. The difference between Microsoft and Sony right now is Sony is still using the old school way of thinking, meaning that they're trying to get people to buy their console, whereas Microsoft does not care where you're playing. And with xCloud becoming the X factor, pun totally intended there, we're going to see Microsoft break into regions that they have no right to be in, right? But based on past history, and two, make strides to make Xbox a known commodity in places like South Korea, like Asia, Japan, right? We're starting to see. I mean, obviously, about 6 weeks ago, they launched Xbox Game Pass in Japan. Why would you do that if you can't sell a console? If you tried to give it away free, people would walk by it. Why? xCloud. So they're getting that region that normally would not even look to Xbox as a gaming platform to now play. Why? Well, because they're going to cater to that audience, and they're doing that. Again, a lot of people harken back to May 7th as being a failure. I don't think it was a failure for Microsoft. I think it was a tremendous success. Sure, the gameplay aspect that people keep bringing up is always going to be the thing, but the games that they showed are games that people in that region, gamers in that region, are going to enjoy. When was the last time you heard a Yakuza game coming to Xbox? Right out of the gate.
Well, and there's something else I gotta say too that everybody should remember this, right? So a while back when Microsoft was talking about xCloud, they dropped the name Samsung, and Samsung mentioned some stuff back and forth just for a little bit, right? So I think that we are going to see in the future a partnership between xCloud and Samsung devices. I think that's going to hold true. I think they're going to honor that. I think it's going to happen, but I think they're waiting for every cell phone company to drop the proper 5G frequencies, because that will make it so that you could just pick up your phone no matter where you are in the world, and you could play it just like it's a portable Switch, except it's Xbox and Xbox's third-party titles on it. I mean, don't forget about that. It's coming, man.
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think.
Yeah, jump in, VJ.
Yeah, sorry, because it's difficult to get a word in. Yeah, you guys are an illustrious panel. So I think we're pretty much agreed, right? That Game Pass is exactly where Phil Spencer is focused. And to get that as wide, just make it essential and get it everywhere possible. And it was just something you mentioned about Samsung. You know, I was thinking about Samsung. I was just thinking, you know, Microsoft likes to dominate. They didn't have the hardware narrative this gen, and they're making sure they've got it in terms of power. They've got it this upcoming gen. They didn't have the first party studio output in terms of narrative, and we're pretty much really confident that they're going to put that right as well. Now, the reason I think that Phil is suggested and saying that, look, it's not about console sales, because he knows about the Sony brand, and he knows it's difficult to dominate the space where it comes to selling hardware off the shelf. And you know, Microsoft, they love to dominate and one ring to rule them all and all that good stuff. So, but my point is, if the hardware doesn't do well, I'm just wondering if they'll pull a maneuver. You know, I might be showing my age here, but you know, back in the 70s when JVC, you know, when they designed the VHS technology and then they licensed the tech out to other manufacturers, and what that did was make those manufacturers compete, sell the machine, sell it cheaper, and get it out to more consumers, and that's how they eventually beat the more sort of high-spec Betamax, right, back then. But then that also takes the burden off of Microsoft on having to make machines and getting them out there when there's more manufacturers doing it, and helps them focus even more, you know, just focusing on Game Pass, getting games studios, developing software, because that's what they do, right? They're experts at making essential software, getting subscribers, and keeping them on board.
Yeah, just to add that real quick, Boom, and they have to add these studios. Like this WB purchase could be something that it's a once in a lifetime deal, and they had to get these studios rather sooner than later, because you can see more and more all these third-party developers are also doing their own subscription service. EA has theirs already. Ubisoft has theirs. Does Bethesda has one as well, or no? I can't recall. So
I don't think so just yet.
So yeah, but they're all starting to do it. You know, PlayStation is looking to, you know, strengthen their PS Now as well. So yeah, this deal, if they have a say in it, they need to make it happen.
And I agree. And I think we're going to look, folks. I'm going to say this. I know there's a lot of people in the chat expecting that the July 23rd to be an extravaganza for games. Yes, for announcements, I don't think so. I think that what you're going to get on the 23rd, which is next week, and obviously we're going to be covering that on that Thursday, which is the 23rd at 8 p.m. Standard Time. We're going to be breaking down every announcement that Microsoft did. The panel is massive. It might be the biggest panel I've ever put together, and it could potentially even be bigger than a 2-hour show. And folks, if that's the case, then we'll sit here on our asses for 3 hours, and we'll give you the best Xbox coverage you could possibly imagine. So make sure you guys and gals tune in for that. But I want to move on to another really big topic. Now, look. One of the biggest tropes that's being used in the raging console war has been that Microsoft is holding back the industry as well as their own developers by not offering Xbox Series X exclusives. Now, in a story that I pulled again from GameIndustry.biz, it has been very clear how Sony and Jim Ryan want to push their community into buying a new PlayStation 5. Case in point, Spider-Man Miles Morales is, of course, a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and one that is going to be utilizing many of the same assets that made 2018 Spider-Man in 2018 by Insomniac Games a huge hit. Now, I'll say this. Many in the gaming community have called foul, and there also has been many PlayStation gamers to defend this extremely unfair decision to leave the 15+ million buyers of the first game behind. though this is not an Xbox topic, and wanted to talk, we wanted to do the show as with the community first mentality of Phil Spencer, and how every Xbox consumer is important to him, and of course Microsoft. Now, according to the article, Sony is tasking its studios to make games that are only playable and possible on the more advanced machine, whereas Xbox is asking its studios to make games that could work across generations. It's a difference that sparked online social media debates over whether the Xbox studios are in fact holding back the industry as a result. And obviously that is just preposterous. Now, here is what Phil Spencer had to say once again during a very lengthy interview, and I wanted to break that down. He says this: frankly, held back is a meme that gets created by people who are too caught up in device competition. I just look at Windows. It's almost certain if the developer is building a Windows version of their game, then the most powerful and highest fidelity version is the PC version. You can even see that with some of our first party console games going to PC, yet from our competitors, that the richest version is, of course, the PC version. Yet the PC ecosystem is the most diverse when it comes to hardware. When you think about the GPUs and CPUs that are made available across the years, yes, every developer is going to find a line and say that say that this is the hardware that I'm going to support. But the diversity of hardware choice in PC has not held back the highest fidelity PC games on the market. The highest fidelity PC games rival anything that anyone has ever seen in video games. So the idea that developers don't know how to build games or game engines or ecosystems that work across a set of hardware is proof in point in PC that shows that's not in fact the case. And I'm going to say this. He continues with, we should applaud load times and fidelity of scenes and frame rate and input latency and all of those things that we focus on with the next generation, but that should not exclude people from being able to play. That's our point. How we create our ecosystem where if you want to play an Xbox game, we're going to give you an option in order to play that game. Now, Noof, I'll go to you first because I know you're chomping at the bit, and then I'll bring, of course, our esteemed guest VJ into this. When you hear Phil Spencer talk, he obviously, completely moving away from Game Pass. This is a hardware-based topic, and we've been hearing, and you've heard the tropes that Xbox is holding back the industry because they don't have exclusives. When you hear Phil Spencer in a very short amount of words break it down that is not in fact the case, what do you say to the community pushing this narrative?
Well, from a technology standpoint, no, Xbox is not holding anything back. The only thing holding anybody back is the developer and how much time and effort they want to put into a particular title, that sort of thing. That's what I firmly believe. We've seen, like I said, talented developers time and time again push the envelope on hardware that, The Last of Us 2 is a perfect example of a game that looks magnificent, and it's built on older hardware. I mean, as far as like the games are concerned and stuff, and the upgrading and stuff, or they're holding back, or that you kind of feels like it's forced to get a PlayStation to play the newer stuff. That's how it's kind of always been, though. Like, Microsoft might be the one sort of bucking the trend. It doesn't necessarily mean Sony is wrong. As I said with the Game Pass thing, right? Earlier, and I think I might have said it in the chat. I don't know if I said it in my spiel, but the difference is Microsoft is going to make their money. They're not about the console sales anymore. They know they can't go toe-to-toe with Sony at console sales because they don't have the market share. They do well in North America, but they struggle in other parts of the world. They're going to make their money. They're going to make their name to fame with things like the services, the Game Pass, and all those other things that they build revenue through. Sony's bread and butter, at least for the meantime, is primarily the PlayStation. That is what they're banking on. They don't have the same intensive ecosystem as Xbox because they're not entrenched in the PC market, for example, right? Xbox is deep in the PC market, so they have an instant audience that most people never even give slight of day. I don't play a PC, and most of us guys on this panel probably don't care so much. I'm not saying everybody, but The thing is, there's still millions upon millions of PC gamers that have Xbox Live now, and they're getting Xbox Game Pass, so they're making coin. That's how Microsoft's doing it. Sony wants to push the hardware, so they automatically they're going to leave the other ones behind because they want to get the new hardware out the door. They want, they need to bring those numbers up quickly and fast, and there's no better way to sort of entice your consumer to jump in and buy your product if you're going to tell them, well, these games only going to run on this PlayStation 5. I think that Spider-Man game, for example, is fully capable of running on PS4 and was pretty much built on PS4 technology. But
Yes.
they're gonna market it, and they're gonna just to push it as PS5 because they know that Spider-Man's a bankable property. That's the bottom line. Spider-Man's one of those properties that is it's so bankable. They know right from the get-go they're going to have people buying PS5s out the gate just for that game alone. They couldn't even do that, I don't think, with God of War, for example, because God of War, as big as it is, isn't that marketable property like Spider-Man. Spider-Man,
Right, Spider-Man's a whole different animal for sure.
Totally, right? Because Spider-Man's beloved by more than just gamers. It's kids are going to see that. I want that console, Mom. I'll just buy you a PS4, Johnny. Well, I want that PS5, Mom. And that you're going to hear a lot of that. Xbox doesn't have that. You got to get the Xbox Series X, and Microsoft, honestly, it's a bonus for them. If you buy the Series X to get those games, fantastic, great. And that's the thing. People that want Series X already planning to pre-order. They're going to buy it anyway. So if you're planning to buy a Series X, and especially if you're getting it like kind of day one, it shouldn't make a difference what Microsoft does either, because you're still going to buy Series X and you're going to buy the best version of the game regardless. Right. The only one that leaves out in the cold are the people that, one, can't afford a new system, or two, you just weren't planning to upgrade right away. For me, I've been asked this about 300 times in the last couple weeks. Are you buying a Series X? Are you buying a PS5? And my answer is no, I am not. I will. I'm not at launch. I am waiting for a bit. I don't feel it's necessary. I may change my mind after the 23rd, but right now nobody has got my underwear up in a knot. To go buy another $600 console when I've already bought a PS4 Pro and I bought an Xbox One X. I mean, how much more money do I have to throw at these guys? I'm wallet fatigued. I can't keep up with the games, let alone the consoles. So give me a break, man. Yeah, I could go on a big ass rant all you want. I don't think it's, people are making Sony out to be a massive bad guy here. It's not as pro consumers we like, but you know what? People want a PS5, they're going to buy it anyway, and they're going to buy it for those games. And like I said, it's a bit of a slap, but it is what it is. We've been doing that since the dawn of time. New games come out on new hardware, and guess what we do? We buy the new hardware. No one ever questioned it before, but because Microsoft is going to do things differently, now all of a sudden it's like, screw Sony. Well, Sony is doing what they do. They make money, but they make it because they sell lots of hardware, and in turn, they sell lots of games because they have lots of hardware.
I mean, listen, it makes sense. Now, VJ, I want to bring you back into the conversation, but let me just catch up on some of the super chats, and I'm going to just read you a quote from Phil Spencer, and then we'll get your opinion on it. It said, D-Duplicate drops a super sticker for $3. Hey, dude, thank you so much for the generosity, but more importantly, for being here today live. I'm laughing because the next super chat comes in from Harry Balls, who drops a super chat and says, if Microsoft buys WB, Bluebird, or Sobo, they can have a game come out every month for 3 years. That is correct. They could really put it in there. Face 23PKNY drops a $5 super chat. Thank you for being here, dude. He says, I'll say this. Every generation, this is the norm with PlayStation, because Microsoft is going a different route. Doesn't mean Sony has to follow. No, I believe that they are walking to their own drums for certain. Pixel Bit G, hey, dude, thank you so much for being here, but also thank you for your generosity. He drops a $5 super chat and says, all of the trolls talking about held back, but we've seen lots of games, yet only maybe 2 look like they can't run on standard hard drive. What a joke. And I agree. I think that there's a lot more to be held for us to see. But VJ, listen, I want to read you a quote from what Phil Spencer had to say during this interview. I want to get your opinion on it. He says, as a player, you are the center of our strategy. Our device is not the center of our strategy. Our game is not the center of the strategy. We want to enable you to play the games you want to play with the friends you want to play with on any device. On TV, on the Xbox is going to be, of course, the best way to play console games. Xbox Series X is the most powerful console out there, and it will have be absolutely the best version of our console games, but that does not exclude other people from being able to play. When you hear that, when you hear how he talks about the community, does that get you excited on what Microsoft is doing with their next generation plans?
I think I'm going to answer this a little bit differently. See, I understand what Phil's trying to do, right? I mean, first of all, I just want to go back to the gentleman that spoke before. See, just want to make it clear, when Phil says 2 years, you have to understand 2 years is an incredibly short amount of time in the video game industry. It really is. But the one thing I'm looking at in terms of Phil, the messaging could be a little bit, more subtler. So I think what he's trying to get across and trying to explain to people is that, look, if there was a gaming utopia, there'd be no such thing as exclusives, and everybody get to play whatever they want. Unfortunately, we're in an industry and business environment where we're producing hardware and we've got to have the software to go with it. But you know what? We're going to try to take a few steps sort of closer to the gaming utopia by making all of our content available, not just on Xbox Series X, and plug the fact that, hey, but that is the best way to experience our software, but you will be able to play in more places, with a PC and with xCloud and so forth. But I think they've got other things in mind, right? We don't know what tech they're working on and so on and so forth. And this thing about holding developers back and all this kind of nonsense that I read, and honestly, I read about 2 sentences and I switch off, because this is how I see it. Yeah, the PR team, whoever's sort of weaving this narrative for Phil, I mean, he's not doing it himself, right? He's got a team of people helping him right in the background, right? But sometimes, and I don't mean to be critical of Microsoft or Xbox. I will be critical when I think we need to be critical, and I'll praise them when I think we need to praise them. But sometimes I think the PR team there needs a kick in the bottom. Right?
I agree. Yes.
Mm-hmm. The way I see it, what Phil has done by acquiring these studios, not all 15, some of them, as Gaming Forte's mentioned, are AAA, but some of them, what he's actually done, he's protected, he's conserved these developers and allowing them to come into Microsoft and grow. Because I'm telling you now, right, any studio, it doesn't matter how good or bad they are, and even take Obsidian, these guys are possibly a surviving hand to mouth and a risk at closing at any time. Any of them can fall foul, of a publishing deal. You only have to look at the Take-Two debacle with that studio. Was it Star Theory Games? That could happen to any of them. But Microsoft Phil's gone in with Matt Booty and looked at these guys, acquired them, and said to them, you know what? We can see what they're about. Let's bring them into our infrastructure. We can see they've got the talent. We can see they've got the creativity. And he said as well I think one of the press releases or the interviews that, look, it's going to take time for these studios to get familiar with our power of our hardware, get familiar with the first-party tools, get familiar with our IT infrastructure, building out their studios, and sort of going almost like on a, I don't know what you call it, like an initial sort of phase of understanding the whole Microsoft infrastructure with all the other studios. So for him to turn around and say, it's going to take 2 years before we, bring out best games, I think that could have really been handled so much better. And the other thing that I think people should be praising is that what he's trying to say is this, is say, hey, look, they're acknowledging, maybe not directly apologizing, but they are acknowledging in the last 7 years all the support and the loyalty that the community showed them, and he's paying that back. And if you look at it as consumers, us guys, we've probably put 40 to 50 billion retail dollars into the Xbox ecosystem. And if Phil Spencer wants to turn around and say, you know what, we've got to support these guys for the least next 2 years, because these are the same guys that have been waiting for Fable. They've been waiting for Halo. They've been dying for Halo. And what, we're gonna just let them go? No, we ain't gonna do that. We're gonna support them, and we're gonna support the Xbox Series X, and we're gonna support these guys that have put this money in for the last 2 years. And I think you may not like it. People may have an agenda saying he's holding the industry back, he's holding developers back, and they're just going to create trash for Game Pass. No, I think you should be applauded for it. But everyone's going to read the tea leaves how they want to, right? At the end of the day.
No, that's
my basic points there and then. But definitely, for goodness sake, please you know, I don't know how ruthlessly creative Phil is, but he needs to look. And, you know, gamers are incredibly sensitive. And I know probably in the chat, said, no, we're not sensitive, but we are, right? We are. And I think that messaging just needs to just have a touch of sensitivity, and I think we're all good.
Well, you know what? I will say this to your point, and I've been very critical of their marketing schemes, and I would say that pre December 9th, the Game Awards, they've had some questionable advertising speak that went awry. There's no doubt about it. But we know that Jarrett West has returned. And ever since he has come back to the company, the aggressive behavior that they have shown in their marketing is why people are talking about Xbox positively. It's not everyone's bashing the Xbox. I will say that as someone that has seen the turn go from Xbox being on everyone's lips to everyone hating Xbox, and we're going back through the 2013, 14, 15, and 16, we've seen a tremendous turnaround post E3 2018. But I want to bring in Gaming Forte, and the reason why I want to bring you next in, because you represent the PC master race, and you have an amazing, and that's why I want to bring you in, because when you hear the tropes of Xbox holding back, you and I, we've talked privately. We laugh at this because we know that it's not true, simply because this is the x86 architecture, which we know could be used across a multitude of CPUs and GPUs. It's done on PC all the time. When you hear this and you hear Phil say that, yes, the Xbox Series X version will be the ultimate dominant version in the market, and then and in the same breath he says, but if you don't want to upgrade now, you can still enjoy the game on your current Xbox One X. What do you say to that?
I say bravo and thank you for sticking to the guns that you stated years ago. The biggest look, man, even being a PC gamer and going back and forth between PC and Xbox, it's the thing I'm looking forward to the most is the fact that consoles are finally going to be, I mean, they're actually going to be a little bit more superior than PCs are, unless you go for the super high end spec. I mean, you won't be able to build anything that can even be comparable to these systems when it comes to the Xbox and the PlayStation for less than $1,000. That's pretty much where the benchmark is until all of these things start coming out. And the one thing I think people like to go and take Phil's quotes and stuff, and the things that he said is absolutely true, but there's context behind everything. It's more of people don't realize that Xbox is, when they're talking about the scalability, the things that they're doing, they keep thinking that Xbox is talking about the whole industry, about what they're doing is what the whole industry should do. No, they're talking about themselves. They're saying, yes, we have a platform that we are not leaving our people behind. Now, third party can do whatever they want to. If third party doesn't want to support the lower end Xboxes, they don't have to. They can literally bring out a game that takes full advantage of the S and the X and let it be known that that's what they wanted to do, and that's fine. They just miss out on 50 million other people that want to probably buy their game that didn't, switch over, and that's 100% fine. It's an option. It's what people want to do. But the thing that people keep coming back to is like, well, people act like this has never been done before. This is like, it's always been like this. And I was like, yeah, it has been always like this, but we actually have systems now that can be on par with the PCs that most people want to be a part of. You now have the ability to literally take any game that you play and go forward with it. And I'm sorry, that's something that I truly appreciate, because my Steam library is huge. It's like ridiculous. It's bigger than my Xbox library, to tell you the truth. And the simple fact is, I don't have to worry if I switch over from Ryzen or switch over from Intel to Ryzen that those games are going to work. I don't have to worry about going from, I remember when I had a 7970 Radeon graphics card from 8 years ago, and those same games that I had then work now. you know, and so it's never been a problem on the PC side. And I think this is the thing. Xbox has done a great job over the course of the last 4 to 5 years, kind of conditioning its player base to this is what the new norm's going to be. You know, we always say that PlayStation is going to follow suit sooner or later, but they don't have to. They're not in a situation where they felt like they had to like make drastic changes to the whole ecosystem to make themselves viable. And we're not saying Xbox hasn't been viable this generation, but Xbox hasn't been on the same level of quality as PlayStation was this whole generation. So what do? You change the narrative. And people are right. Phil Spencer is spinning a narrative that is exciting and possible for the ecosystem and system that he wants to put out there. He's talking. That's what he's doing. What's going to help his system sell.
Right.
Do you mind if I make a real quick point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jump in.
Okay, just a real quick point. And this kind of just dawned on me as we're talking and you brought up the PC thing. I think it's time we switched our way of thinking about consoles. Think of it like this.
Yes.
When you think of the way when you buy a PC game for your PC, what's the first thing you notice on the side of your box? Minimum spec, medium spec, high spec. That's how you have to look at your consoles now. Your Xbox One, your Xbox One X, that's your low end spec. The next one that Microsoft makes, what's it going to be called, the Lockhart or whatever, that would be like sort of your medium ground, and then your Series X, that is your high end spec. That's your top graphic card. You know, the game is going to look and run the best if you have that top, and that's how I think we have to start positioning our heads. It's kind of like we look at the PC spec requirements for a game.
Yeah, and just to tie it all down, because I don't want to get long-winded with it. The biggest thing for me is I feel like all the people, especially over the last 48 hours, that made these videos about I don't understand what Phil Spencer's talking about. How can he say this? It's always been like this. Absolutely. Yes, you're right. It has always. When you buy a new system, you look forward to the new things that are only available on that system. But guess what? That was in a generation where 90% of the people that played games, well, not 90, I'll say about 70 to 80% of the people that played games did it on console. This is the first true generation where the cross-pollination between console and PC is at its absolute greatest. So you're going to have a lot of people that played on both sides and they say, hey, why not? I'm used to my games all going forward. And the simple fact of the matter is this, and I'm going to let it be that. Phil Spencer understands that no matter what happens, people just want to be in a community and play with the people they want to.
Yes.
And play the games where they want to play them at. And people act like the PlayStation is doing this too. They're not doing this. They're doing something completely different. And Xbox is doing something completely different. That's what you should want as a gamer. You shouldn't want carbon copies of each system. If you want to play on a cutting edge on console and you want all of your games to, in your mind matter because you feel like they're taking advantage of the spec that is made for that system, you can go over to PlayStation. 90% of all the games that come out are on both systems, and you'll get the first-party PlayStation games over there that supposedly will just take advantage of the next generation system. And if you want the option to have all your games go forward with you going forward, because guess what? If this isn't the last console Microsoft makes, which they say it isn't, you're going to have the same thing when that console goes. You'll be able to take these games into that generation. And you'll have a library that you'll continue to build. So they've been talking this forever. It's not new to me, but for some reason it's new to most of these people in this community.
I mean, and extremely well said. I don't even have a rebuttal. I mean, I think what you said is perfect. We have to, and again, I say we. I've been thinking about this for a while, so I'm not in the conversation, but I'm on the panel. So I'll say that the community as a whole has to think broader. We have to think new. We have to think different. It is not the same cut and dry, release a new console. These games are locked behind a paywall. Sorry if you can't afford it. And I think that's what Sony is doing. I disagree with the move. I understand that's what they've done in the past. But you know what? I've seen Microsoft do things that I wish. I'm not saying I want Sony to copy. I'm saying I wish Sony would somehow incorporate some of the things that Microsoft has done and do it a way where it's more it's better for the consumer. The consumer is at the center.
Well, let me ask you this, Boo, and I'm gonna ask, and this is to the whole panel. When it comes to this situation, tell me if I'm wrong, but literally 8-9 years ago, was it? No, 7 years ago, when Xbox One got announced, and they did the blunder on the stage that shall not be named, and they talked like, and they said the things that they said that pissed off the gaming community. They basically ended up doing that same exact thing, and we're going through it right now.
Yes.
Everybody that was so hard up, and this is go back to the whole thing about you saying that people need to like think of the broader picture and people need to think outside the box. I'm not saying that Microsoft made the greatest decision back then when they did it. They were trying to be forward thinking in their mindset of what the generation was going to play out to be, which it ended up being for the most part. They were just a little ahead of the curve, and they tried to impose that on people when they were not ready, which is 100% why we got on them about that at the time. But guess what? Nobody complains about. We see more people complaining about Xbox Live and PSN being down. But guess what? if those services didn't, if you weren't a part of those services, why would you even care? The fact that we hear about it lets you know that everybody has Xbox Live for the most part. Everybody has PSN for the most part. All of us talking about digital game downloads and stuff like, oh, why would we want to download all our games? A whole bunch of people have nothing but digital libraries now at this point. People go digital, people are physical. So the whole generation kind of just flipped on its head for the way that people think about the things that they're thinking about. This is nothing new. This is just the next step in that evolution that they're trying to do. And they're only talking about Xbox right now. Nobody else. If you want to be a part of that, join Xbox. If you don't, go the other way.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. You know what? Cybernox, let me read you a quote from Phil, and I'll get your opinion on it. But let me just catch up on some of the super chats first, as we close in on 450 people live on the live in the chat. First of all, thank you so much for being here and supporting not only Double Barrel Gaming but this particular program. And I am going to ask that if you haven't already, and you are enjoying the banter, please, for the love of Jehovah, please consider hitting that like button. Trust me when I tell you, it helps with the internet thing, the algorithm for YouTube, which no one will ever figure out. Real quick, Face 23 BKNY drops a very generous $20 super chat. Thank you for your generosity once again, BK. But he says this perfect example of being held back. Cyberpunk 2077, look at everything they had to take out. Wall running, car customization, cutbacks, and delays to get the game to run on the previous hardware instead of focusing on next gen. And I agree with you there. But here's the problem with it. Just imagine if all they decided to do was focus on the Series X and the PlayStation 5 and, of course, PC, right? First of all, Sony is sitting, and I'm going to be a little ballsy here and say, let's say, just say for shits and giggles, 115 million consoles sold, right? So, and we're going to say 50 million. We'll keep it subtle for Microsoft. 50 million consoles. That's 165 million people that will not be able to play this game. Now, are they going to sell that many copies? Probably not. But let's just say they sell 30 million copies of Cyberpunk on the PS4, which I expect. And they sell potentially half that, 15, 20 million on the Xbox One console. That could be that you're talking about 40 to 50 million people that are going to buy the game. And when you launch your console this November, which we're expecting both consoles, how many people are going to buy the consoles or actually be able to find them? So if they didn't do that, if they didn't, offer the ability to play this on the older systems, what would happen is they wouldn't sell many copies because let's just say, and again, we're just thinking outside the box here. Let's say that the PlayStation 5 sells 5 million in the remainder of the year let's just say they come out in October. From October to December, they sell 5 million. The Xbox,
they don't have 5 million to sell, boom.
But I'm just, like I said, this is just completely hypothetical. If they, for instance, were able to sell 5 million copies each, of these consoles, how many people are going to buy Cyberpunk day one? Let's just say half. So you're going to go from 40 to 50 million of sold to 5 million copies of the game sold that everyone's been waiting for. So they had to do it from a financial point of view. But Cybernox, look, Phil Spencer's final comment on this big interview was, gaming is bigger than any one device. And that is something as an industry that we've embraced. As we bring more and more players in, I think it's vital to the role that gaming can play on the planet, not the region, not North America, not the UK, not the EU, not the Asian markets. He says the planet, which in scale and scope means that Microsoft and Phil Spencer are looking to get the entire world not only involved in gaming, but involved in Xbox gaming. What are your thoughts on, again, holding back the industry when we know that's not in fact the case, and hearing Phil's statement about talking about planet-wide dominance for Xbox?
Man, I don't understand what it is about Microsoft and Xbox that if something is negative, it's Xbox's fault. I don't understand that, like, so apparently PC has been holding back gaming for the time since it's existing, because you can play anything, pretty much anything on PC, kind of like what Forte just alluded to. And you want to talk about holding back, the first game you're going to play on PS5 is Spider-Man Miles Morales, and that's going at 30 frames per second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? What he's doing is he's keeping that ecosystem happy. He's keeping all those consumers happy. For the first time, what have we been doing ever since we've been gaming? We buy a console. All those games that you bought, you either keep your old console or you're not going to play them anymore. Go to the shelf. That is it. For the first time ever, when it started with the Xbox One, we have backwards compatibility. And now all the games you have in your digital catalog are going to go forward with you to, your Series X or your Series S. Like, how is that holding anything back? I understand about design. They have to look into the inclusion for all the consoles and their ecosystem. But like they said, PC has been doing that. And when there is a system that they say, hey, we can only achieve this design or this kind of vision that we were looking for our game on this system due to its power, due to its whatever it is, but PC has been doing that for a long time. There isn't like one, like Forte mentioned, you have Noof might have mentioned that you have your minimum specs, you have your recommended. I don't understand when Xbox says something that's ultimately pro-consumer. He's thanking the fans, kind of like VJ mentioned as well. You guys stuck with us for this long. You guys been waiting for all these known franchises that you've grown to love, and Fable is like the industry's worst kept secret, so everybody wants to play that. He's saying, here you go, thank you for sticking with us, and you're going to be able to play this no matter which console you own. And when you decide to upgrade, not a problem either. You're going to get that upgrade to the Series X for free. Like, I don't understand that. But I got to give Phil props, man. He stands on that sense that, hey, gaming is bigger. The consumer gaming here is for everybody, and I want to reach as many people as possible. And he's shown that more and more time, like with xCloud, with Game Pass, with now you're being able to get these upgrades for free. People that say that, they're just looking for, I don't even understand the attention when there's. So what? I'm sorry.
I don't even know if they're true gamers, right? I mean,
seriously,
Microsoft are coming back off the canvas, right? They really are, and they're saying, look, this is our intent, this is our ambition, this is our sort of creativity we want to put into our products. And to be honest, we haven't even seen Fable or Halo, right? We have no idea what it looks like. We have no clue. So when we see it and we walk away, and we're completely sold on it. Is anyone going to come back on the panel and say, yeah, you know what, I've got an issue with the design. Look brilliant. Can't wait to get it. But or something, is that why it was delayed? Oh, I'm not sure about one of those guns, and the parallax scrolling was terrible. I mean, it's just insane. It drives me insane when I read
it. Drives me crazy too. And what have we seen, honestly? What have we seen from all the showcases that we've been getting every other month or every month that actually screams out next gen? Nothing yet so far. You know what I mean? It's true. Like, we just had the Ubisoft thing. I saw, and then I'm looking like, okay, all these games I can play, like, on my console. It's gonna get optimized for the Series X, but like, you gotta give me more than what they're showing me. And for Phil Spencer to be like, hey, don't worry about it. Wherever you buy this, you're gonna be able to play it. It's just icing on the cake.
But let me ask you this while you're on that subject. What is for all of these games, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, what has the narrative been around those games over the last month when people see them and they kind of compare them to Xbox games? What do they say?
Mature content, graphical fidelity, mature games, story-driven games.
Where the game design and don't get me wrong, game design is definitely a thing that I want in games, but I'm just trying to contrast what people say versus what is shown and say there is no correlation, because they're always saying, oh, it looks great, the fidelity is amazing, the graphical fidelity. Xbox has no games that look like this, no game on Xbox like this. That's all I keep hearing from people. If you would have had the conversation and said, dude, that game looks amazing, but I wish they did a little bit more with the design of the game, then I could rock with you. But when you're up here talking and praising one set of games because of the graphical fidelity of it, but then you want to poo-poo graphical fidelity and say that's not enough for next generation.
Yes.
I'm like, well, where was this conversation the last 2 months?
Well, it's the double standard. That's the bottom line. It's a double standard forte, and obviously, listen. I'll say this: I am confident based on what I know, what I think I know, and what I've been told in dark alleys that we won't talk about. That what we're going to see on the 23rd is going to be breathtaking. That's right. I'm doing a Keanu Reeves quote here. Breathtaking. I think we're all going to be pleasantly surprised. I think some are going to be complete. What I'm looking forward to, and I'm not going to do it because I'm going to be 50 years old, so I don't do stuff like that anymore. But I'm going to be watching the screaming videos that everyone's going to make a compilation of when they start dropping these mega bombs. But we have one more gentleman to get to, and then we have a massive Halo topic to close out the show, which I spent a couple hours writing. I think it's fantastic, and it'll be a good way to close out tonight's show. Clowns, look, when you hear being held back, we know the tropes. But when you look at what Microsoft is doing, let's say, for instance, bringing games forward, they've already told us that Fusion Frenzy, which came out, I think, in 2000, is going to have ray tracing. Now, yes, how many of us are racing to pop our copies of Fusion Frenzy into the new console? Probably 0.00.1%. But the fact that it's available, the fact that it can do that, tells me that the forward thinking that has gone into this console, that is going to be going into the games that play on the Series X, the Series S, the Xbox One X, and the One S, are all going to be playable in a way that you're still going to enjoy the game. Again, this topic was about holding back. I'm interested to know what you think about how Microsoft has been forward-thinking the entire time, also keeping their current customers in mind.
Well, when I think of forward thinking from Microsoft and in reference to this question, Boom, I'm thinking about everything that they've done so far under Phil Spencer that has been pro-consumer friendly. First off, let me address that going forward with the Fusion Frenzy thing you said, being able to play an older game in a different kind of way or a more advanced way is in fact amazing, because it takes a lot on the engineering level, I'm sure, between software and hardware to make stuff like this happen. So for the fact that they put the effort in there, instead of just saying, no, you know, let's forget all those people that want all those backwards compatible games. Let's just keep it moving forward. We'll sell new titles or more remasters. But instead, I mean, Phil and the team are like, okay, well, if somebody likes Fusion Frenzy out there, we're going to make it look better and we're going to make it work. I mean, that is very pro-consumer friendly. So everything going forward from Phil Spencer with backwards compatibility, xCloud, Game Pass is just fantastic. And for the fact that you could pop in a disc like Fusion Frenzy and get more, make it look more advanced, it makes me believe in my heart that more and more older titles that might go into Game Pass might have those abilities as well.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure that Microsoft is thinking about all these things and they're going to make it happen. They're going to make everything look to the level that next gen should be. And that is forward thinking, because you're not going to get that kind of experience on, let's say, other competitor consoles right now, because they're not thinking that way, or they didn't put the time or the investment into this. And Microsoft and Xbox have been secretly doing this for a while now, putting the effort in, putting the money in, putting the teams in. And I mean, this is just fantastic news for fans. It's more of a reason to go ahead and get that Xbox Series X and, you know, start collecting some older titles out there. I mean, just for, as a matter of fact, right now, if you're not sure of anything and there's something that you might want or think that might be backwards compatible in the future, GameStop does fantastic sales lately on the pre-owned games. Sometimes buy two, get one, or buy two, get two. I've been stocking up because I'm waiting for them. I'm waiting. I got a shelf full of old titles here, and I'm waiting to experience them on Xbox Series X, because I've never played some of these titles before. So I am enthusiastically very excited, and I am a fanboy of this technology that Phil Spencer has allowed his team to develop, because another CEO might not have put those resources there for this to happen, but Phil made those resources available. He made this happen for Xbox.
Yeah. That's, I mean, and you know what? You can hear the excitement in Clown's voice. I've podcasted with him for years, and I got to tell you, Clowns, you're bringing it 100 today. So thank you for, of course, closing out this particular topic on an epic note. But let me just catch up on some of the super chats, and then we'll get right into the Halo topic and close out this outstanding show. Super Panda, first of all, dude, thank you so much for being here. He drops a $5 super chat, says, to me, Phil has been clear that he believes in exclusives for Xbox. It's just that Xbox is more than only a console. It's also Game Pass and PC. Very well said. Avis Plush Productions drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat, says, when changing console generations, I have vivid memories of destroying my library in a month. Then there was nothing. Bravo, Phil. And I remember doing it. I remember walking over to storage and completely just putting everything away or selling everything to get your next console. And now we don't have to do that. JD Gamers in the house. JD, thanks for being there. He drops a $2 super chat. I want Sony to copy MS. That's what they do best. I would like them to see them turn PS Now into PS Game Pass. That's what I would. Oh, Predator H2O is in the chat. First of all, Predator, we got to get you back on the show, my brother. We have not had you on in a while. He drops a very outrageous $5 super chat, but he says this, and this is thought-provoking. Do you think some consumers will assume that games on the PS5 will only work on the PS4? Imagine the confusion for people not in the know. That is an excellent and thought-provoking comment. Joe Dunmore drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Joe, thank you for hanging out, dude. Super appreciate it. He says, why does the industry want Xbox to fail? That's a great question. It almost makes me dislike PlayStation, especially their fanboys. Yeah, I like to see everybody win. Maybe I'm a nerd. Maybe I'm too friendly. I want to see everybody win, but I want to see gamers win at the end of the day. Humble Beast drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, devs talk on WB acquisition plus said hold on, I'm sorry about that. It just scrolled past. Let me get back to it. Okay, he says Durr's talk on WB acquisition plus said IP should go multiplat for Microsoft to get market share. Then Excel is a necessity. How would Microsoft sell the ecosystem outside of North America if said game is on Sony system? But you know what? I think they could sell it, because if you're going to tell me as a consumer that, let's just say, for instance, you're not sure which next generation console you want to get, right? You have limited funds, especially now in the market that we're living in, and you only can buy one console. You're going to go and buy a console that's going to give you the most maximum dollar for every time you spend one of your hard-earned bucks. And if you can spend $15 a month to get 200 plus games and all of the launch titles Microsoft will be putting out in November for the price of $15 a month, and you look at Sony and say, well, Bug Snacks Game of the Year, that's going to be about $30. Spider-Man, $60. Godfall, that's another $60, potentially $70. So you have to factor in $200 just for games, and that you're getting nothing but the console. So that's a $700 investment, potentially more. JD Gamer drops another $5 super chat, says, we as an Xbox community and as gamers need to stop giving Sony so much credit and minimizing Microsoft's achievements. Microsoft game-wise started off well. Yes, they absolutely did. JD Gamer drops another $5 super chat, says PlayStation 4 wasn't full of great exclusives for the first 3 years. That is absolutely correct. In fact, Xbox One had better games those first 3 years, and PlayStation has yet to give any good multiplayer games this gen. That's also very true. Joe Dunmore drops another $2 super chat and says back compat is a great survey for what gamers want, and that's the truth. JD Gamer, my goodness, my brother, he drops another $5 super chat and says there is more than one type of game. There's one more type of game there is more than one type of game. So to me, Sony isn't better than Microsoft this gen. If you like first-person TPS, racers, or multiplayer games, only single-player game narratives. And I mean, there's some truth to that. I mean, that's why I own multiple consoles. Viper XT is here. He drops a $5 super chat, says, I'm right there with you clowns. I have a bunch of original Xbox and Xbox 360 games waiting for backwards compatibility on the Series X. And yes, I think we all are for a lot of reasons, but let's get to the next topic, because obviously we are close to the end of the show, but we still got about 30 or 40 minutes. So I want to get this one in because this one's a big one. Now, look, I'm going to say this. The importance of 343's Halo Infinite cannot be understated. And this particular topic, we're going to discuss what 343 needs to show at the July 23rd first party showcase. And in a story pulled from Game Rant, we know how much 343 will be bringing to the big Xbox event, and that Halo Infinite's gameplay campaign gameplay will be a huge part of the Series X event, and that has been confirmed by Phil Spencer, Microsoft, and of course 343 Industries. Now, with Halo being Xbox and Xbox being Halo, the importance of Master Chief's new adventure is something that 343 has been tasked to do since the highly selling, in fact, it's the best-selling Halo ever with Halo 5 million copies in the first 3 months of launch, Halo 5 Guardians. And I'm going to say this. I know that I'm the detractor of the podcast. I did not really enjoy Halo 5. I'm going to be honest with you. I was disappointed. And of course, because of the lackluster story and Agent Locke, I think that he was overly used and underdeveloped. I think if they developed that character, it would have been much better. But the single player in Halo Infinite is paramount and needs to be great. With that said, I'm expecting that the $500 million investment into the Slipspace engine is going to pay off. And with nearly 5 years of development under their belt, I believe 343 will not only deliver the goods, but really shock the naysayers who think Halo is a dead franchise. That I 100% agree with. But I want to start with, of course, our guest, VJ. Look, 343 has a daunting task in front of them.
Yeah.
They've been grinding away for the last 5 years. We know that they have the talent, they have the skills to bring us an amazing Halo. I think Halo is going to be there. It has been confirmed to be there in a big way. For you, in your opinion, how important is a good showing for Master Chief and Halo Infinite next week?
Let me put it to you this way. I mean, God, Mike, that takes me back all the time when Take-Two had Halo, right? And then Microsoft came in and bought out Bungie, right? So I think Halo was unique, right? Back in the day on Xbox, and I mean, I loved it, right? Because it was combat evolved, and I think everybody, me, you, my next door neighbor, we all want to see how 343 has effectively evolved Halo. I mean, it's so important. Not just it's synonymous with the hardware, but if it's bad, it's going to drag the whole show down. But I can tell you this: if it's good, and as good as all your back alley contacts tell you it is, it's going to raise the perceived quality of everything.
Everything, yes.
Yeah, it's gonna. That's what it's going. That's the power of Halo, right? And for me, whether they show it, in 5 minutes or 15 minutes, all I want to come away with is being a believer. That's it. And that's pretty much it.
Let me ask you another question.
Okay.
Do you believe 343 has what it takes to deliver the ultimate Halo?
I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't know people there, and I haven't seen it. And as a passionate gamer, I can tell you, oh yeah, absolutely. The amount of money that's been sort of lavished and invested on them, and does anybody on the panel know how long they've been working on it?
At least 5 years, right?
5 years.
5 years. 5 years they've been working on Halo. Yes.
Gamer is that it really should be that good, and I don't doubt your contacts, Boom. I think you already know. I think you probably even had a sneak peek. But anyway,
I wish I, dude. Trust me, I wish I saw it, because then I obviously probably wouldn't even done this topic, because I'd want to talk about it. But no, I don't have that. I don't have an inside. I do have Phil's number. I just haven't called him yet. Maybe after the show. Noof Nukem, look, let's bring you into the conversation, because obviously, the old adage, the old fun Halo is Xbox, Xbox is Halo. We've heard that 100 times before, but it's the truth, and it is an IP. It is a franchise that people consider to be a little long in the tooth. I disagree. I think that we are in a position with what Microsoft and what VJ said about the investment into the slip space engine and the new hardware. We're going to get a Master Chief unlike anything we've ever seen before. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to get a Halo unlike anything we've seen before, but also still familiar for you. What do you want to see from 343 and Microsoft next week? But how they do it, is that going to be an important factor in showing this new game?
Sure. And as always, Boom, before I blabber on, I'll let you catch up with your super chats first.
Okay, well, real quick, Emmanuel A1 drops a very generous $2 super chat. Says some hate Xbox because it represents America. Sad. I think Microsoft represents the world. I actually have never actually seen that, but if people think that, wow, that's very small-minded. King Rose drops an additional $5 super chat. Says, Boom, what do you think the possibility of Halo being open world? I think that it's going to be open world, but it's going to be open world in a way that is going to give us, it's going to be open world. I think that on the Halo ring that we're going to be on, it is going to be a massive undertaking. Now, do I think it's going to be Assassin's Creed Odyssey big? No. Do I think it has the potential to be Far Cry 6 big? I don't know. But I'll say this. I have grown up with Halo. I've been a big fan. I read the books. I have helmets. I have an energy sword in front of me. I'm a huge fan. I want to see Master Chief brought back where he is the star of the show. We're getting that, I'm pretty sure. But I also want to see, I don't mind the corridor fights. I don't mind that. I just want something more. And I think what we know for a fact, two key factors were missing from Halo 4 and Halo 5 was a fear factor of the bad guy. The antagonist needs to be Darth Vader level. We're going to get that with Atriox, and of course his second in command, which we don't know who he is and who he looks like, but he's supposedly going to be a badass. And we're getting the return of the Flood. Two key elements that have been missing. I think that if you put a slipspace engine, you put a high-powered graphics console in the Series X, you get a killer story, and you involve Atriox and the Flood, I think what you have is a game of the year 2020. That's what I think. Sir X-Men drops another super chat for $5. Says, I can't get Pepe Le Pew at Bugs fighting out of my mind. Please give me a Looney Tunes fighting game. Good grief, my friend. So, please take it away.
Well, there's a lot of things I want. There's a lot of things I don't want. And one thing, that's different with this generation than the old generation was games back in the day. Those games were built to be 10 hours, 20 hours, and anything extra was basically left on the cutting room floor as a sequel or DLC. Now I find the games are technically built as 5-hour games, and they try to stretch out a 5-hour game into a 20-hour game by adding a lot of unnecessary fetch quests and boring things. Look, I want Halo to return to form. They had a few missteps, but I don't think was a bad game in the franchise. I think 5 was misunderstood by a lot of people and it came up with a lot of negative hype, all that stuff. But I think 343 knows what's at stake. They're going to get things back on track. There's a few things you can say about 343. They still know how to tell the story. They know how to push the graphics engine. The graphics just keep looking better and better. So they do a lot of things right. There's no studio in Microsoft's whole in their whole corporation right now that has more pressure to deliver than 343. I think those guys are sweat bullets. They want this game to be huge. They know that, from a sales perspective, it's probably going to do fine. It's Halo, you know what I mean? That's almost a given. But I think they're also yearning for that critical success to get a game that the critics kind of stop and go, wow, now that's Halo, everything we love, stuff that we don't. I don't want Halo to turn into a big RPG. Like I said, the open world is fine as long as they keep it tight, they keep it focused, and they don't bog you down with 101 drive over here and fetch this and drive over here and fetch that. I don't want that out of Halo. I want a solid shooter. I want more human aspects. Some of the best moments in the Halo franchise were moments between Master Chief and Cortana. Those sorts of things, those conversations, you know what I mean? We want Master Chief to feel like a badass, but you also need a villain that makes him feel vulnerable too, that he's not impervious and that he can't, you know what I mean? He's still at heart, he's a human, he's a Spartan, but I just want Halo I want more environments in Halo to be reflective of things that we can identify with and know. If there's one thing I just started dreading with Halo over the last little while was the games, that whether it's the multiplayer maps or the campaign, they had too many boring looking level designs, very flat walls, very organic. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I agree there. Yes, you want some variety in the environments. Yeah.
Because if you look at one thing about just like The Last of Us 2, for example, if there's one aspect about that game that not enough people bring up about that game, is how believable and how amazing the environments are in that game. They're almost a star of the show in itself because they're so well thought out, they're so detailed, and they're so identifiable. For me, the best moments for the Halo games are when you go down to places like New Mombasa and stuff like that, when you're on the Earth, or when you're on the ring itself and you have Earth-like environments and you have trees and foliage. When you get in these little closed-in ships and you're in these tight quarters and you just turn left, turn right, shoot a couple of grunts, avoid an elite, shoot again, that stuff gets boring really quick. I want a lot of these wow moments, like the original moments when the hunter killers first come out and attacked you and you're kind of, whoa, what are these dudes, So there's a lot riding on Halo 343. I don't envy those guys in the least. I think no matter what kind of game they make, no matter how much effort they put into it, no matter what the budget is, there's already the hate train, like I said, ready to leave the station, ready with the pitchforks, ready to burn Halo to the ground, because they know if there's any franchise that any non-Xbox fan can't stand to see succeed, is Halo.
Yeah.
They don't, because that's the flagship. That is the game that you identify with Xbox. It's Master Chief and Halo. He's even green. Xbox has always been green. screen, right? It doesn't get no more Halo than that. Master Chief and Halo is the Xbox what generally Mario has always been for Nintendo. 343 can get the job done. People got to stop with this. If it's not Bungie, it's crap. Well, you know what? Bungie made Destiny. I don't see that game rocking it up over there, right?
Right.
So it doesn't make you a bad studio. It's no different than your favorite band. I love Metallica. Do you think Metallica's made banger after banger album? No,
No,
they've
they've had a few duds. Sure,
your
they
favorite movie directors have had stinkers. Your favorite, everything in your life, every brand you've ever loved has always slipped. I hate it when people pitchfork BioWare. Oh, BioWare sucks. Yeah, BioWare slipped a couple of times. They tried to do something different. It didn't succeed. That is the problem. You can't slit their throat every time they make a mistake because it's not what you want it. Like, give them a break, cut them loose. You're either going to like it or you're not going to like it, but let's at least be open and honest. Halo, I think Halo 343 and this game is going to get the ship back on track. I'm confident in it. I want to see it big at the show. I think it will be. I have a funny feeling it's going to lead the show because nothing would get fans more pumped than the opening of Xbox and you hear in that music. Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun,
Yes.
dun, dun, you know, that's all you need just to get there. You go, man. I got a stiff one just thinking about it. But I'll leave someone else to talk on it because I know we're getting tight on time. But I'm expecting a big performance.
Well, and dude, everything you said, I agree 100%. I like the thinking of, you know, again, we don't mind the corridor shooting if it's done in a way where it doesn't feel like they're forcing it on you. I absolutely agree 100%. You know, Cybernox, let's get to you because we know that you're a big Halo fan, and the Living Flame, in my opinion, just dropped the quote of the night. The quote of the entire show. First of all, he drops a very generous $5 super chat, but he says this: Chief, there's a settlement that needs your help. Here, I'll mark it on your map for you. Yes, that's what I am talking about, because no one, listen, there's going to be the main mission. You're going to have to eventually go toe-to-toe with the Flood. You're eventually going to have to go toe-to-toe with Atriox, and of course, that something that we've never faced before, right? But when you hear stuff like this, where they're going to give you side quests, side missions that are going to be marked on your map, but what if you're just driving around the environments and you find where the Flood are coming from, and you have to go and exterminate the nest or whatever it is? It's that kind of exploration I hope they bring to the table. What are your thoughts on that?
I would thoroughly enjoy something along those lines, you know, something that feels kind of like what you guys mentioned, organic to that world and what's going on. I would love, they got to have a strong story, man. They need, you know, that campaign needs to be fire. Like, that's what's gonna, you know, bring people to Halo, I believe. You know, that's why a lot of people, the marketing for Halo 5 was amazing, but the campaign, in my opinion, was just trash.
I agree with you there.
That's it, you know. Yeah, a strong campaign, man. Like, give us Chief, show us, you know, what's going on with him and Cortana, if he has some kind of backup, if he has blue team with them, what's going on with those guys, you know. The branching off, I do like that. I just don't, I kind of agree with Noof. I just hope it doesn't turn out just to be a bunch of fetch quests just so we can, you know, stay playing the game. I think they do need to evolve the franchise somewhat. You know, we already have, you know, multiplayer is amazing, but they got to give, not a lot of people enjoy playing multiplayer. And a lot of people do enjoy being in the Halo world. So I think they have to kind of, I've said this from years before, why not do something like Destiny where you can have your own Spartan, or after the campaign, you're one of the Spartans that stay in that world, and then you actually build your character and you build your own armor, and then that's where the game actually is like a game after the campaign. You know, it becomes like kind of like Destiny. You do these quests, you gain armor and you gain new guns and you know, and so forth. But yeah, man, I think 343, this Halo is one of the most important Halos, not just for Xbox, but for the franchise itself. I think ever since Halo 4, man, it's been on a downward slope. We had hope. I mean, Halo 5 sold millions, you know, it broke I think it broke some records,
It
but
did, yes.
But the fan base just didn't stay there. There's something that it's like they have to evolve and they have to adapt with the times. I know a lot of us don't we all think of Halo of being something different, but you can see that with time, like other games have done things that Halo could have done or could do that will make the fan base happy and keep people in that world. But yeah, man, 343 is under enormous pressure. I hope they deliver. I am keeping my fingers crossed. I have faith. They did. Halo 4's story was great. Halo 5's multiplayer was fantastic as well. So I'm just hoping they merge these two and give us a fantastic game overall.
No, and I agree. Gaming Forte, obviously, you've heard everyone's opinion. People don't want fetch quests like in Horizon Zero Dawn where you got to go find the guy's leg. Nobody wants to do that with Master Chief. But with that said, there are missions that can be built from the ground up that give Chief purpose in a bigger told story. Is that what you are expecting, or is it something that you want? What are you expecting from the July 23rd showcase, and how important is it to 343?
Well,
because you heard the word Destiny, your ears must have perked.
They perked, but I don't need another Destiny. But, I don't need another one of those. But okay, so 343 is under immense pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Not only from just fans themselves, but I think internally too. I think at a certain, do I think this could be like the end of 343? No, but I think leadership change will definitely happen. I think Bonnie Ross and Connor could be in some serious trouble if this doesn't turn in the best light that it needs to. For me, when a person asks me what I want from Halo, I'm complex, because I think Halo by itself is such a beautiful game in general. Like just the story, the epilogue of how everything breaks down. I read all the books for it. The multiplayer is phenomenal, and none of that stuff for me has ever never on a complete package said 343 on it for me. And I think that's the biggest problem. So I will be the first one, and I said it on the show multiple times, I'll be the first one to say I have no belief in 343 when it comes to a Halo game until they prove it. And a little bit of a good ray of hope, I guess, because the Halo 3 for PC launched and it wasn't a buggy mess
right
this time around. So that kind of helps the situation. I just think that what they need to do is just show a game that we could never have gotten on the gotten on the Xbox, the regular Xbox, because I keep hearing these rumors that they're making a version that is specifically built to take advantage of the Series X.
Yes,
if that's the case, I think that's a start. The second thing is, don't pull the carpet on us when it comes to Master Chief. Let us enjoy the story.
Thank you,
Master Chief. I mean, until that man is either sitting behind a desk or barking orders at us like Sarge, I always want to be playing as Chief. I want it narratively to make sense when you do make that move. Don't cloak and dagger us like you did with the whole Locke situation. I think the rumors I keep hearing of Halo going down a darker storyline, that would be really interesting. Really,
something they haven't done before. Yes,
something they've never done before, and we saw how divisive that can be in games that released not even a month ago. How that can really play in a game, and I think that's the thing that Halo needs to do. It needs to modernize itself to take advantage of the games that people like to play now, which are, like you said, Destiny and Fortnite and stuff like that. I think it needs to, but I still think it needs to hold that identity that is what Halo has always been. And the thing for me is people look at Halo as it's always been about the multiplayer. As much as I love that multiplayer, it's never been about the multiplayer. Halo has always been about the story.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
That got people into the game.
Yes.
Multiplayer is what keeps you there. And until 343 fixes that problem, because the story above all is the reason you buy the game, it doesn't matter how great the multiplayer is, because we got a great multiplayer in Halo 5 and everybody hated the story, and some people consider it one of the worst Halo games ever, which I would probably say Halo 4 was, and that had a better story. But I don't know, man. For me, this is the last opportunity that I'm giving 343 to give us the opportunity to play a great game, because normally Halo games have a 3-year development cycle. This one's had 5.
Yes.
So they gave this game extra time, and it has the benefits of having to come out with a brand new system with brand new tech that they already knew for the last 2 or 3 years that how they were going to build this game. If they can't give us the experience we want, then something needs to change at 343, or they just need to give and honestly, they probably just need to give Halo a break if that's the case. But that's not going to happen, because it's a $1 billion franchise. But overall, they need to show out, and they need to show everything. And this doesn't just speak to just 343. It needs to speak for every developer they have under their thing. This whole narrative and rumor that they're talking about, like with the initiative not showing their game because they want to hold it off and wait for Sony to like do whatever.
There's just too many games being shown at the show, dude. Yeah,
it's too many games being shown at the show, but we're in a situation, and this is why I tie it to Halo. Halo's in this last situation for me and a lot of other gamers. They need to show that game right the first time.
Yes.
They can't mess up. And the reason I say the thing with the initiative, I'm not saying it's worrisome. I understand why they're doing it. But when you are in third place, you need to throw everything at the kitchen sink to get excited for your platform.
But if the initiative comes out, though, and shows a game that's underwhelming, they're never going to hear the end of it until the game comes out. People are going to, the Doomsday Brigade's going to be out. So, like, you know.
But no, they don't have to show. This is the thing. I don't care about seeing the game. Tell me what it is. If you're working on, this is the only way I'll give the like I was telling people. We was talking about this in DMs. The only way I give the initiative a pass on not talking about the game at this event is if it's a brand new franchise that we never seen before. Because at that point, it's completely hush-hush, and we haven't heard any leaks or anything like that. But if they come out in August and say we're getting basically a reboot of Perfect Dark or something like that, well, we know what Perfect Dark is. You could at least told us at the event, like, hey, and we're making one of your favorite franchises, Perfect Dark, and we're going to let you know the developer is going to be making that game for you, but we're going to have more information on that soon. And they can say something just like that, and guess what will happen on the internet? Speculation will go wild. What they would do, what people will be thinking about, how that could transition into a new version of Perfect Dark of what they're doing in the game. I just feel like that's the better way to set up another reveal if it's an IP that you already own. But if it's something that you're making that's brand new, be quiet about it. Talk about it when you want to talk, because Noof is right. Hush, hush. I mean, you don't want the first impression to be a bad impression, but I think Microsoft's in a situation, if they want to win back the fans that they lost 7 years ago, they can't be holding anything back.
And I agree. I think they're going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink. But let's bring Clowns in to close out this topic and this really content-packed 2 hours. Clowns, listen, you obviously have been a fan of Halo since its inception. You've been a part of the series as a fan. You've seen it grow. You've seen it fall. Most people, including myself, are expecting to see the Phoenix rise out of the ashes at this show. What do you expect, and what do you want to see next week?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you, Boom. What I really want to see from Halo is kind of like a different direction in the story, something that expands the universe and goes further. Mm-hmm. Like, I really want them to develop this evil Cortana, and I want them to develop Atriox. I want them to develop just a bigger threat than what they've faced before. And I want that to carry on throughout this whole game until the end of the story, and that story continues, so I buy the next one. That's what I want to see from Halo, but I want to see it done right. I don't want to see it where it has like watered down missions and some are short and some are long. I want to see like a continual, gradual story developed through the whole thing. And I want long chapters, like nice, decent sized chapters for the price of the game or my time in Game Pass, whatever. But I just want something that's going to hold my attention and that I don't give up on it. Like, I don't get bored by like maybe the third chapter in or the third level in, you know. I want something that's going to keep me going. And I think that if 343 can do that, they can save the franchise. But like what everybody else has alluded to so far, I think if they don't do that, I think that then essentially they would have watered down the Halo franchise, making it almost obsolete at this point for Microsoft and Xbox to continue it further beyond this title. So it has to be good. It has to capture a new generation of audience while holding its previous audience. It needs to grow its fan base, not shrink the fan base. That's very important for this franchise to be successful and to continue on.
And dude, that is a great way to close out the show, because I don't think I would change anything you said. I think that what you said is great. What I want to see is there is so much story to be told in the Halo universe. And you know something? Not everybody reads the books, but those stories can be told through good storytelling, through gameplay. And the single player is where we all want to return to. And in that, let's just close out the evening. But let me just catch up on a few of the super chats and we'll get everybody out of here. Pixelbit G drops a very generous $5 super chat. Says, I think Halo 1. Oh, okay. Halo Infinite will capture what we felt when we first landed on the ring. That second stage when you are rescuing Marines and then head underground. I from your mouth to the gaming god's ears, my friend. And of course, Sir X-Man drops another super chat of $2. Thank you for your generosity, your extreme generosity this evening. He says, "Save Team Locke." And who knows what's going to happen with Locke? I mean, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see Locke being used and developed as a character. He was overly used and underdeveloped in 5, and I think that there's more to his story that I'd like to learn. But you just can't take away Chief. I'm sorry, you just can't do that. Dirty Gritty drops a $5 super chat. Thank you for being here. Well, it says dirty. It's Dirt Gritty. He says, "What's up, everyone? Halo Infinite will be the best Halo ever. 5 years in development. 343 knows they have to get it right." Yes, they absolutely do. And we have Army Veteran. Hey, dude, thanks so much for being here. He drops a very generous $5 super chat. Says, "What's up, all? Late to the show. Boom. You are allowed to delete comments on your vids outside of the live chat. Got an idiot talking smack on your channel." Well, I mean, listen, if there's someone that's saying something, I'll just ban him and delete his comments. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. But if you say something nasty, I'm going to block you. JD Gamer, once again, shows his generosity with another $5 super chat. Says, "Speak Forte speak. I go to Halo for single player. I stay for multiplayer. That is exactly how it's worked for me. Give the initiative the time to make and polish a great game." Yes, and JD Gamer, once again, my brother, thank you for your outstanding generosity. He says, "Microsoft needs to learn how to tease, market, and reveal games, and I think we're going to do that." But let's get into, of course, the outros.
If JD Gamer drops any more super chats, or boom, you're gonna have to put him on the panel.
I'm gonna have to put him on the payroll. Well, he's already on the payroll. I mean, sheesh. But yeah, thank you so much, JD, for your absolute insane generosity. It is truly and greatly appreciated. And we'll start with our guest, VJ. First of all, you did great this evening. I hope you had an excellent time on your first podcast, and we certainly will definitely have you back in the future. Do me a favor, VJ. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, and tell everyone what else you got going on.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Boone, for having me on. It's been a fantastic experience and really great pleasure. Thank everyone in the panel for making me feel welcome. And if there's anyone in the chat that wants to ask me anything, I'll absolutely answer you. You can find me on Twitter at Viewpoint Gaming. And yeah, I'm not doing anything at the moment. I'm just reading some books and just clearing my mind for some upcoming releases, right, on video games, and then get my nose back to the grindstone. And I hope to be back on your panel one day in the future.
Yeah, well, you definitely will be. You did great this evening, and I think you're going to get a lot of followers. All of his information will be available in the show notes. So you should just click it, give this dude a follow. He is going to be someone we will be bringing back, but we'll also be talking about his comments were fantastic. Noof Nukem, thanks so much for being here, dude. You obviously bailed us out in a big time. Certainly giving you the last minute notification, like, hey, Noof, can you jump on? You did like a superhero. You were here. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media. Check out your outstanding YouTube channel, along with, of course, your weekly show, but also hook up with you on your community gaming nights that you've been doing the last couple of weekends.
Absolutely. I try to keep this short, but like I said at the start, Broom, I saw the fat signal and I showed up ready to go. But you have a great panel anyway. I mean, Cybernox, Gaming Forte, Clowns in the House, and VJ, you killed it for your first time out, brother. Great representation here today on Boom Show. And again, Broom, thanks for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure. When I get those invites, they're very, very hard to turn away, especially if I can make it. But yes, guys, you know where to find me. It's just Noof Nukem on Xbox, Noof Nukem 76, PlayStation. My channel is Noof Nukem. We have a podcast on Tuesday nights. If you're not aware, it's called Gaming After Dark. It's kind of like most gaming podcasts, but a little bit more. It's
adult.
Humorous,
Let's just say that
some adult humor, and it can get pretty raunchy, get a little bit risque, as you call it at times. So yes, it is with my amazing co-host Primal Eve. She's amazing. She's a one of a kind gal. We have a lot of fun. Last week's was absolutely just dynamite. We had Titan Drago and that in there. Tomorrow night we're gonna have Middle Age Game Guy and Anime Heaven.
Nice.
So two guys joining us tomorrow night. Middle Age, I think, is making his podcast debut, so that should be interesting. And of course, Community Game Day, Community Game Night, whichever you want to call it. I did a survey right now on my Twitter page that I appreciate people go checking that out. Just trying to figure out what day or night works better for the majority of the gamers. I'm trying to switch things up a little bit, but it's very hard on Saturday nights to make the game accessible for a lot of my friends that are across the sea over in the UK in that area. So I've been that's why we did it on Sunday this week, so to accommodate more players. We had a great turnout. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, it was fantastic. It was a blast. And that's about it for me, but I can't leave without this guy at least popping in for a second. I think you know who that is, Boom.
Yes, I do. Arnold, are you there, sir?
Boom. What are you saying? I'm always here. I'm always listening to your podcast. It is the best podcast out there. He's got so many of them. You want to check them out. He's got another one coming up tomorrow. So make sure you follow him. You subscribe to the channel. You hit the bell icon and you'll hit the ding, ding, ding. And boom, we'll get going and he'll rock the show. He's got always a fantastic panel and the podcast and the topic is amazing. And the other thing as well, I just wanted to say I'm super excited. I can't wait. We're like 10 days out now from the Xbox coming out there and they're going to drop the great show and it's going to be awesome. I know Phil Spencer's going to come out there with his balls hanging to the floor and he's going to tell people it's going to be a great show. They're going to show off that Series X and they're going to show the great graphics and Halo Infinite. It's always, if I could do one role in all of the movies, I want to do a Halo. I want to dress up as Master Chief. The only problem is they tell me I'm going to have to shut up because I don't sound like him. So wouldn't that be awesome? I'm going to kick your ass, Atriox. Get back in your hole. I'm going to have to get to the Covenant. Let's do it. But anyway, there you go. Thanks, Arnold.
Well, thank you, and thanks, Arnold, for flying him in. Obviously, that check is in the mail. Every time we get him on, we got to pay him the 50 cents. So, yeah, thank you so much for that, dude. Super appreciate it. Next but not least, next and no way least, of course, Gaming Forte. Obviously, you, my friend, are, really your last couple of videos. I think your channel has turned a corner. I think that you are really, really putting your nose to the grindstone when it comes to putting content not only on other people's channel, but more importantly your channel. Your last couple of videos were absolutely fantastic, and I think people need to definitely get to your channel, listen to. Do me a favor, dude, tell everyone where they can check out your channel, but more importantly, check out you on other programs.
Yeah, man, it's been crazy the last week, man, and it's all because of a bet with Slow Mo Backslap that if I make a video every day for next week, or this week he has to do that grounded video, and we're two videos in for this week.
Snap!
We gonna make him make it, man. He's got to make that video. So but yeah, man, it's been incredible, man. All the support, all the love, man. It's everybody that's retweeted, watch those videos, man. It definitely lets you know that you're supported. It makes you just want to keep making them. So
Yes.
keep doing that, guys. I really appreciate it. But it's Gaming Forte everywhere, YouTube, Twitter. Check us out on Basement Radio Podcast, 9 p.m. on Wednesdays with B Mummy, Slow Mo, E Jackson, Brap, and B Money. Check us out on the Scumcast every Saturday night at 4 p.m. It's been amazing. Shout out to Hustle and Motivate. Just joined the show over there.
Yeah, he's great, dude. He's
really
I gotta
good.
get him on my show. He's fantastic.
Yeah, get him on the show. He's trying to broaden his appeal. He moved over from Twitch. Now he's on YouTube doing streams and everything too. So really, really good guy. And then last but not least, the Mooch. Check us out over there on Crossfire every Friday, 7 p.m. It's always a good time over there, just talking games and stuff. Get into arguments all the time, but it's always still fun. But yeah, man, it's been a good show. Can't wait to see next time we do this show, it'll be literally the week that we go into the Xbox Games Showcase.
Yes,
so I can't wait.
Next week is going to be Christmas in July. and I don't think it's just for the Xbox gamers. I think it's for gamers as a whole.
Yes.
We're going to be looking to see what Microsoft brings to the table. I think we're all going to be excited. Even if you don't play currently on the Xbox, maybe they show you something that you just want to get yourself an Xbox next generation.
Yep. And one more thing, Noof, I got a suggestion for your game night.
Right.
Battlefield 4. If we do Battlefield 4, 60-man servers, 32 on 32. Bro, I will rent a server so we can get the whole group in there. You could do like 1 day, 2 day rent
I will
servers.
definitely jump on to that.
Dude,
if you're gonna have that many people, you count me in.
Bro, because I saw you was thinking about games that we get that many people. Dude, I will do Battlefield 4 anytime, any day. So if you want, let me know. We can start working on that to get something together.
Oh, that sounds good.
Plan.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, that sounds dope. 32 on 32. Oh my God, that would be massive. Next up, Cybernox. Hey, dude, first of all, thanks for being the first one here. Obviously, Alfred dropped you off prior to getting himself set up for DC Comic-Con coming up very shortly. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone about your incredible YouTube channel, but also where people could reach out to you on social media and have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Always enjoy being here Monday evenings, primetime gaming. VJ did amazing, man. Noof, thanks for stopping by. My panel brothers, always amazing to be here with you guys. Chat, you guys been great. Cybernox everywhere. Hit me up on Xbox, Twitter, all those social media places, but I'm also more active on Twitter. Cybernox on YouTube as well. I'm starting to put a little bit more content, and it's just the editing, man. Editing, it takes forever, and time for me right now it is tough. So I'm thinking of dropping a couple more videos, maybe start doing a video every week. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and can we for next week.
Yeah, and obviously next week is going to be big. Looking forward to it. Obviously, we're going to be doing some predictions probably next Monday evening, along with an actual prediction show that particular Wednesday. But last, in no way least, our pirate legend returning for his third show in a row. First of all, clowns, it is amazing to have you back. Obviously, you took off some time to be with the family, and of course, this is a family first show, but it is honestly great to have you back on. And I gotta tell you, clowns, you were more passionate tonight than I think that you've ever been, and I love it. So bring that, clowns, each and every week. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone about the outstanding Four Guys with Quarters, but also where people could reach out to you on social media.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Boom. I appreciate it. We definitely had some passionate topics tonight. And as an Xbox fan, I'm very passionate about that kind of stuff. So on social media, Italian Clowns on Twitter, Italian Clowns on Twitch, Italian Clowns on YouTube, Clowns on Trovo, Four Guys with Quarters every Monday, usually, depending on what's going on, around 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow, Assassin and I will be streaming as Pirate Legends in the Devil's Roar on Sea of Thieves, because we are in the Sea of Thieves Creators Program.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. Well, that's actually good to know. So, well, listen, folks, I want to say this. This has been a 2+ hour show that I hope everyone enjoyed. The passionate banter that was going back and forth with everyone in the chat. It's something I as a creator love to see. The support that Double Barrel Gaming continues to get is nothing short of amazing. Obviously, my big announcement from last week, for in under 3 years, 1 million plus views, which is insane considering that I'm still under 5,000 subs. But I want to thank everyone that has pushed Double Barrel Gaming and myself to be a better content creator each and every week. Of course, I have to personally thank everyone for the outstanding and unbelievable amount of super chats that came in this evening. It really is so humbling, the generosity that continues to be shown to me and the work that I do. It is honestly and truly greatly appreciated. And of course, I want to thank my panel for being here. So listen, as we close out tonight's show, I just want to say something that I've been saying for the last year or so. It's something that my father taught me. It made me a better human being. It made me a better man. And more importantly, it made me a better police officer when I served New York City for 21 plus years. My dad used to teach us a lot of things, but two things stuck with me, and they went with me through my entire journey through the NYPD. And he used to tell me, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you, you're going to have a good day. So take care. Good night. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.